Just getting ready to start on another new episode. Apparently, the game that we're going to be talking about today had a working title of Foot and Mouth when it was in development, until that was rejected by the publisher and they had to brainstorm a new title. I'm guessing that Arse Over Tit was probably rejected as well. Hello everybody, welcome to the Re-Review, the series where I get to replay and reassess games from my favourite gaming era. I'm Brian, also known as UK Gen Zoidberg, and I've been playing games for over 40 years now. From getting my first console in the shape of an Atari 2600, right through to today where I game mostly on the Xbox, I've played a lot of games and formed a lot of opinions. My favourite system has always been the Amiga though, and back in the early 90s I was fortunate enough to be a member of the writing team for both Games X and Amiga Action. In this series, I'm going to be taking a look back at all of the games that I previously reviewed, finding out whether they're worth playing today and if my opinions have changed. In this episode, the game that I'm going to be replaying is Head Over Heels, which was published by Ocean Software on their Hit Squad label in 1991. Before I started to play games on the Amiga, the home computer that really started to shape me as a gamer was the ZX Spectrum. Despite having only 8 colours and very scratchy sound, it really opened my eyes as to the variety of games that were available. Jetpack, Renegade, Cybernoid, Nebulous, Manic Miner. There were simply too many great games for me to list. It would probably take the full length of this video for me to just go through my favourites. One game that I am going to focus on though is Batman, which was released by Ocean Software in 1986. Inspired by the games of Ultimate, specifically Knightlaw, this brilliant isometric adventure saw you take control of the Caped Crusader as he explored the Batcave in search of all his equipment. It was the work of programmer John Rittman and artist Bernie Drummond. Rittman had a number of games behind him already, including Bear Bother, Darkstar and the hugely successful Matchday, the latter of which was also published by Ocean, whereas this was actually Drummond's debut game. Review scores were understandably great, as were the sales, and it left everybody wondering what the duo would come up with next. As it turns out, their next game would be Matchday 2, which was even better than the first, and this was swiftly followed by Head Over Heels. With double the number of rooms that had appeared in Batman, and gameplay that saw you take control of 2 very different characters, it was another resounding success. I can remember it being one of 2 games that came out in 1987 that were awarded 97% in their reviews from Crash magazine, the other one being Jeff Crammon's The Sentinel. No other game had scored so highly at the time, so for 2 games to come along in quick succession was unprecedented. After splitting from Ocean, Rittman and Drummond went on to work for Rare for many years. During this time, they produced Monster Max for the Game Boy, another game that's reviewed incredibly well. However, due to duplication issues at the publisher, Titus, the game didn't actually get released for almost a year after the reviews were published. Consequently, the sales weren't very good, but it is remembered today by many as a hidden gem for the handheld. After founding a new studio called Cranberry Sauce in 1996, they signed a deal with Philips Media Interactive to produce 3 games. Sadly, only 2 of these ever got released, QAD and Super Match Soccer, and the company folded soon after. Sadly, Bernie Drummond passed away in 2021, but he will always be remembered for his excellent work in gaming. As he said himself in a 2016 interview with Eurogamer, the graphics were created using a well-tried and tested technique. In short, I'd just draw, letting my imagination fly. Any images that looked good, fit a purpose, or inspired more puzzles and graphics were kept. I even have a homemade t-shirt with the Batman sprite on it that you may have seen me wear on one of these videos. Rest in peace, Bernie. The Amiga version of Head Over Heels arrived 4 years after the 8-bit originals, and was released by Ocean directly onto their budget label, the Hit Squad. According to Rittman on his own website, the code was converted line by line by Colin Porch at Ocean, meaning that it even had all the same bugs as the original. You can play the Amiga version today via Antstream, and there was also a remake by Retrospec that was released on Steam in 2019 and the Switch in 2021. Now though, let's check out my original review and see what I thought of the Amiga version first time around. My review appeared in issue 21 of Games X from September 1991. The cover game on that issue was James Pond 2 Robocod, thanks to an exclusive first preview. And our game of the week was the long-awaited Magic Pockets from the Bitmap Brothers. It was also the issue where I reviewed Outrun Europa, and I've covered that one on the re-review way back in episode 2. I remember fighting with the editorial team to get Head Over Heels its own full-page review, as this was an issue where we also featured a page of budget re-releases. Thankfully, the team agreed, and I was able to gush about how I'd considered the Spectrum version of it my favourite game of all time. After expressing mild disappointment that more hadn't been done to update the graphics and the sound, I pointed out that the gameplay was still first class and incredibly addictive. Priced at just $7.99, it was also an absolute bargain. The challenge is enormous and dangerously addictive. The game plays exactly the same way as the 8-bit, and that is exactly as it should be. I awarded it 4.5 X's out of 5 overall, giving the presentation 11 out of 20, last ability 17 out of 20, and gameplay 18 out of 20. Now it's time to see how it plays today in the playtest. As you can see, they actually did a pretty decent job of colouring in the original visuals. They could have really gone overboard, but they didn't. They're trying to make sure that the quality of the visuals is still apparent. Character of Head doesn't move particularly quickly, but he is able to jump 2 blocks in height, and he is able to glide as well. What these fish do that I'm about to pick up here is they're essentially the equivalent of a save game. So if I was to lose all of my lives and restart a game, it would give me the option to start an old game, which would then start me from whatever the last fish that I picked up was. You know what? That movement noise is really going to get on my nerves. I'm gonna quit out. Because what you can do is you can change the sound so that the noise of the footsteps is gone. And so there you go. You see, I started from the fish, and the game is a lot nicer to listen to now. I think the fact that you can only move in 4 directions as opposed to 8 certainly helps with the way that you can gauge where you are on the screen. I think it was a very good decision by Ocean to release this one at budget price, because it was probably them realising that people might not want to pay £25 for what was at the time a 4-year-old game. So press F1 and I will switch between characters now. And so this is Heels, who cannot jump as far but can run twice as fast. What I picked up there was a bag that allows me to pick up items and carry them to a certain position across the screen. That bunny rabbit there I actually don't want to pick up, because that one will give me the ability to jump twice the height, and that's going to make this particular jump too tricky. Since the random movement of some of the enemies is probably one of the most annoying things about the game, but because it's all part of the design, it's hard to criticise it too much. And so here we are, the two characters have met up. If I change over to Head, I should now be able to combine the two, and they will now move as one. And any extra lives that you pick up when you are both characters will get the lives. And then once you've got the two characters to meet up, the game does its best to keep splitting them up again after that. The game will get you to split up the characters. So, for instance, Head is the only one who can get through this door here. And if I switch back to Heels, Heels is then the only character who can get up these stairs of little puppies. Because I don't know what the deal is, but the puppies all vanish whenever Head appears. Maybe they're scared of him or something. This section is essentially the spaceport, so you can go off to any of the 4 planets that you want from here. There's 2 rooms. There's this room with 2 rooms with arrows in, this one and this one. And off to the side of each room is the teleporter to one of the 4 planets that you need to liberate. So that planet is called Penitentiary. Right. Okay. I seem to remember what you're supposed to do here. You're supposed to actually be quite quick. I've got to get this box onto the head of the dog that's moving round. And then what I now need to do is go round to here. And then I am going to need to time this jump incredibly well. Get in. Oh, no. Well, I did the jump, but I'm now stuck. There is actually a control that you can program in the game where you will pick up and jump at the same time, and that's what I should have done there. So let's see how Head gets on in this planet instead. Never know which of these platforms are going to disappear on you, so I am holding the fire button to make sure that I can jump with each time. And there's a fish. A fish which I can only get if I'm on top of Heels when he's in this room. Right. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there, but that's Head Over Heels. Time to move on to the re-review summary. There's a lot of design decisions that probably wouldn't stand up today, but I think that all adds up to part of the game's charm. So let's see how I would rank it today. Even without the rose-tinted glasses, Head Over Heels stands as proof that great game design is timeless. It's very clear that every single room in the game has been painstakingly laid out and playtested to make it as enjoyable as possible. I stated in my original review that I was a little bit disappointed with the presentation, and while that's certainly true of the sound, the noise of the footsteps of each character really does begin to grate after a while, but can thankfully be turned off, I'd say that I was actually wrong about the graphics. Bernie Drummond's artwork really does leap off the screen in full colour, and let's be honest, if somebody had attempted to redraw them, the results could have been horrendous. I've always liked the fact that the game lets you tackle the 4 planets in any order that you want, as this makes it endlessly replayable. It's also possible to ignore them completely and just head straight for the end if you want, but this only leads to what I would refer to as the coward's ending. There is one feature that sours the experience a little, and that's what I like to refer to as infinite deaths. These are moments where you can miss a jump and fall into the screen below, landing directly onto an enemy or a trap. Every respawn would then see you repeat this until you had lost all of your lives. Losing in such a way can be incredibly frustrating, but for me it's not game breaking and it's something that was present in every version. There aren't a huge number of isometric adventure games on the Amiga, but this is what the Super League looks like, with Head Over Heels sitting near the top. You can watch me go through all these rankings in more detail next week. Even though I'd still class the original Spectrum version as one of my favourite games of all time, I think the 4.5 X's that I gave it first time around, or 9 out of 10 if you like, would be the same score that I would give Head Over Heels today. Thank you for watching this episode of the Re-Review. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode, and the music that's playing in the background right now is a little hint as to what game I'm going to be playing. See if you can work out what it is. If this is your first episode, or you just want to catch up on any of the previous ones, then we have a playlist right here on the channel that you can click on. All opinions expressed in this video are entirely mine and not those of the UK Gaming Network team. So if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said, then please do let me know in the comments. I'd also love to hear your memories of Head Over Heels and whether you liked it. Don't forget, you can also follow me over on Twitter at UKJaneZoidberg, where you can find out what games I'm currently playing. And if you are a fan of what we do on the channel, then please do give us a like and subscribe to show your support. So until next time, happy retro gaming. Bye for now. Also, if I can just say, coming next week is a brand new issue of Amiga Addict magazine, which will have an interview with yours truly. So if you're near a branch of W.H. Smith's, I highly recommend that you go out and buy it.